I trusted my cousin with every secret, treating him like a brother, and even asked him to look after my wife when I traveled, but when I returned, their hidden photos proved they weren't protecting me, they were protecting their affair. I'm writing this because I need someone, anyone, to know what I did and what it cost me. Maybe it'll stop one person from making the same mistake. Maybe it won't. But I can't carry this alone anymore. It started with trust. Complete, blind trust. My cousin Jake and I grew up together. Same neighborhood, same schools, same dreams of getting out of our small town and making something of ourselves. When we both landed in Chicago after college, it felt like destiny. We were brothers in everything but, and honestly, I trusted him more than my actual brothers. I met Sarah 3 years ago at a work conference. She was this brilliant marketing director with these eyes that seemed to see right through all my smart, funny, gorgeous in that effortless way that made every other woman I'd ever dated feel like practice rounds. We moved in together after 8 months. I proposed after 2 years. The wedding was set for next spring. Sarah loved Jake from day one. He's like the brother I never had, she'd say, laughing at his terrible jokes, asking him to help with wedding planning when I was too swamped with work. I was so happy they got along. So proud that my two favorite people loved each other. My job required travel. A lot of it. Sales director for a medical device company meant I was on the road 3 weeks out of every month, sometimes more. It killed me to leave Sarah alone so much, but we had a mortgage to pay and a wedding to fund. She said she understood. She said she'd be fine. That's where Jake came in. Don't worry, man, he'd say, slapping my back as I dragged my suitcase to the Uber. I'll check on her. Make sure she's not eating cereal for dinner again. He'd wink at Sarah, and she'd roll her eyes, but she was smiling. They were both smiling. I thought I was the luckiest live. A woman who loved me, a cousin who had my back, a life that was finally coming together. I started asking Jake to stay over when I was gone for more than a few days. Just in case something happens, I told Sarah. Broken pipes, weird noises, whatever. Jake's handy with that stuff. She hesitated the first time. Just for a second. So brief I almost missed it. Are you sure that's not weird? She asked. Weird? It's Jake. He's family. That was my first mistake. Family doesn't always mean safe. The signs were there. I just refused to see them. Sarah started texting me less when I was away. She used to send me pictures of her day, random thoughts, complaints about her boss. Suddenly, my phone was quiet. When I asked about it, she said she was busy with work, wedding planning, Lion Faye. Made sense. Jake started knowing things about Sarah that I didn't tell him. Her favorite sushi place changed. She started drinking green tea instead of coffee. She bought new workout clothes. Little things that someone living with her would notice. Someone was paying attention to her in ways I wasn't. How do you know she switched gyms? I asked him once. She mentioned it, he said, not meeting my eyes. When I picked up groceries for her last week. I didn't remember asking him to do that. But I was grateful. So grateful for everything he was doing to help. The photos I found were from a trip I took to Seattle in November. 5 days of back-to-back client meetings. I came home exhausted, jet-lagged, ready to collapse into Sarah's arms. She wasn't there. Jake said she was at her sister's, that she'd be back soon. He offered to make dinner while we waited. That's when his phone buzzed on the counter. The screen lit up with a notification. A photo. I glanced over without thinking, the way you do when someone else's phone goes off. It was Sarah. In our bed. Wearing nothing but my old college t-shirt. The one I'd been looking for. The one that had mysteriously disappeared. But it wasn't the shirt that stopped my heart. It was the way she was looking at the camera. The smile on her face. Soft, intimate, loving. The way she used to look at me in those early days when everything felt new and perfect. Jake grabbed his phone so fast he knocked over his. Sorry, work thing, he mumbled, but his face was red. His hands were shaking. I knew. In that moment, I knew everything. But my brain couldn't process it. Wouldn't process it. This was Jake. This was Sarah. This was impossible. I need to use the bathroom, I said, my voice coming from somewhere far away. I locked the door and sat on the edge of the tub, staring at my hands. They were shaking too. My whole body was shaking. I called Sarah. It went straight to voicemail. I called her sister. Sarah? She's not here, Mark. Hasn't been here all week. Is everything okay? Everything was not okay. Everything would never be okay again. When I came out of the bathroom, Jake was gone. There was a note on the counter, had to run. Tell Sarah I said hi. I waited for her. Sat in our living room, in the chair where I'd proposed 6 months earlier, and waited. She came home at midnight, humming some song I didn't recognize. She looked happy. Glowing. The way she used to look when I came home from trips. Hey baby, she said, kissing my cheek. She smelled like Jake's cologne. How was Seattle? I wanted to ask her right then. Wanted to demand the truth, show her what I'd seen, burn it all down in that moment. Instead, I said Seattle was fine and watched her get ready for bed. Watched her brush her teeth with the same toothbrush she'd probably used after kissing my cousin. Watched her slip into bed beside me like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. I just didn't know how much yet. I became a detective in my own life. It's amazing how quickly love can turn into obsession, trust into surveillance. I started coming home from trips a day early without telling anyone. I installed a camera in our hallway, and told Sarah it was for security after there'd been break-ins in the neighborhood. I went through her phone when she was in the shower. What I found was worse than I imagined. They weren't just. They were in love. The text messages went back 8 months. 8 months of I miss you. I can't wait until he's gone again. This is me, but I can't stop. 8 months of planning around my travel schedule, of Jake coming over the minute my plane left the ground. The photos weren't just, though those destroyed me, too. Sarah, my Sarah, doing things with Jake that she'd stopped doing with me months ago. But it was the other pictures that broke me. They're cooking breakfast in our kitchen. Jake is wearing my robe. Sarah curled up against him on our couch, watching Netflix. Pictures of them being a couple in the space I paid for, in the life I'd built for us. There were videos too. I only watched one. Sarah telling Jake she loved him while they lay in our bed, in the sheets I'd bought her for her birthday. I love you too, he said. More than anything. Then she started crying, saying she didn't know how to tell me, how to end it without destroying me. We'll figure it out, Jake said, stroking her hair. I promise. We'll find a way. They were planning to leave me. Together. The only question was when and how to minimize the damage to themselves. I screenshotted everything. Every text, every photo, every piece of evidence of what they'd done to me. Then I sat in my car outside our building and tried to figure out how my life had become a Jerry Springer episode. The rage came first. Pure, white-hot fury that made me want to kick down the door and take Jake to with my bare hands. Then came the humiliation. How many people knew? How many times had I talked about Jake taking care of Sarah while people nodded along, knowing exactly how he was taking care of her? But the worst part was the loneliness. The sudden, crushing realization that the two people I trusted most in the world had been lying to me for most of a year. That every conversation, every family dinner, every moment of gratitude I'd felt toward Jake had been built on deception. That Sarah had been kissing me goodbye and then calling Jake before my plane even took off. I went to a hotel that night. Told Sarah I had food and needed to be close to the bathroom. She sounded concerned, loving. Offered to bring me soup. I almost laughed. Almost. No, baby. Jake can keep you company. I know you hate being alone. Okay, she said. I love you. I love you too. It wasn't a lie. That was the sick part. I still loved her. Still loved him. Even knowing what they'd done, part of me wanted to pretend I'd never seen that photo, never dug deeper. Part of me wanted to go home and crawl into bed beside her and live in denial forever. Instead, I called my brother Mike. Mike lived in Denver, managed a restaurant, had always thought Jake was a little too smooth for his good. I told him everything. Every detail. Every screenshot. By the end, he was quiet for a long time. Jesus, Mark. I'm so sorry. What do I do? You know what you have to do. I did know. But knowing and doing are different things. I spent 3 more days gathering evidence, documenting everything. I hired a private investigator to get photos of them together when they thought I was in Dallas. Professional quality shots of them holding hands at dinner, kissing outside her gym, Jake leaving our apartment at 6 a.m. as he lived there. The investigator was this gruff ex-cop named Murphy who'd seen it all. You want my advice? He said, handing me the envelope. Don't look at these. Just use them in court and move on. Looking will only more. I looked anyway. Of course I did. The photos were devastating. Sarah, radiant and laughing at some restaurant I'd never been to, Jake's hand on her thigh. Jake is carrying her groceries into our building like the man of the house. The two of them were at a Christmas market I'd missed because of work, sharing hot chocolate and looking at each other like teenagers in love. The investigator caught them on a Saturday when I was supposed to be in Phoenix until Monday. I'd flown back early, planning to surprise Sarah with flowers and a weekend getaway. Instead, I sat in Murphy's car across the street and watched my cousin and my fiancée live the life I thought was mine. They looked happy. That was the part that killed me. Not guilty, not conflicted. Happy. Like this was how it was always supposed to be. That's enough, Murphy said after an hour. You've got what you need. But I didn't move. Couldn't move. I sat there watching the life I'd built crumble in real time, wondering if I'd ever be able to trust anyone again. Wondering if this was my fault somehow. If I'd been gone too much, loved her too little, taken them both for granted. It's not your fault, kid, Murphy said, reading my mind. Some people are just selfish. Some people take what isn't theirs and tell themselves they deserve it. That night, I made the plan. I was going to confront them both at the same time. In our apartment, surrounded by all the lies they'd built together. I was going to show them the photos, the texts, the videos. I was going to watch their faces when they realized their secret was out. I scheduled a business trip to Atlanta, told them I'd be gone for a week. Then I came home early, let myself into my apartment like a thief, and waited. They were in our bedroom. I could hear Sarah laughing, could hear Jake's voice murmuring something that made her laugh again. They sounded so comfortable. So natural. Like this was their home, their bed, their life. I sat on the couch in the dark and waited for them to come out. I waited 2 hours. Sitting in my own living room like a stranger, listening to my fiancé and my cousin live in the space I paid for. They ordered Chinese food. Watched a movie. Made jokes I couldn't quite hear. Normal couple things. Things Sarah and I used to do before my job took over my life. When they finally emerged around 9 p.m., Jake was wearing my Northwestern sweatshirt. Sarah had on the silk robe I bought her in Paris. They were laughing about something, her hand trailing along his arm as they walked to the kitchen. They looked like they belonged together. I turned on the lamp. "Hey guys." The sound Sarah made wasn't quite a scream. More like the noise you make when you've been punched in the stomach. Jake just froze, my sweatshirt suddenly looking like evidence. Which it was. "Mark." Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. "You're supposed to be in Atlanta." "Yeah, well, plans change. Sit down. Both of you." For a second, I thought Jake might run. He looked at the door, looked at me, looked at Sarah. But there was nowhere to go. Nowhere to hide. The truth was sitting right there in the living room with us. They sat on opposite ends of the couch. Like distance could somehow make this better. Like I couldn't see the way Sarah was shaking, the way Jake couldn't meet my eyes. "So," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "How long?" Silence. Sarah was crying now, those silent tears that used to break my heart when she was stressed about work or fighting with her mom. Now they just made me angry. "I found the photos, Jake. I have the texts, Sarah. I know about the dinners, the Christmas market, the 8 months of in our bed while I was working to pay for our wedding. So I'll ask again. How long?" "Mark, please," Sarah started. "How long?" Jake flinched. "Good." I wanted him scared. 8 months, he said quietly. "It's been 8 months. 8 months. I repeated it like I was testing how it sounded. "Our engagement party was 9 months ago. So you were planning this before I even put a ring on her finger." "It wasn't planned," Sarah said. "It just happened. It just happened." I pulled out my phone, scrolled to one of the text screenshots. March 15th. Sarah to Jake. "I can't stop thinking about yesterday. When Mark leaves for Denver next week, can you come over? That sounds pretty planned to me." Sarah's face crumpled. "Mark, I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to happen. But it did happen. For 8 months. Every time I left town, every time I asked you to look after her, you were looking after her all right. In our bed. In my house. Wearing my clothes." I stood up, started pacing. The rage was building again, that white-hot fury that made my hands shake. Do you know what the worst part is? It's not even the cheating. It's that you both looked me in the eye every single day and lied. Jake, you were my best man. My best man. You gave a speech about love and loyalty at my engagement party while you were already planning to steal my fiancé. "I never meant to you," Jake said. "But you did. Every day for 8 months, Every time you came to dinner, every time you helped with wedding planning, every time you slapped my back and called me brother, you were stabbing me in it." I pulled out the envelope of photos, them on the coffee table. They scattered across the surface like playing cards. Sarah and Jake holding hands. Kissing outside the gym. Jake carrying her groceries like he lived there. "I hired a private investigator. Murphy's been following you for 2 weeks. You want to see what true love looks like?" Sarah picked up one of the photos with shaking hands. It was them at the Christmas market, looking happier than she'd looked with me in months. She started sobbing. "I love you, Mark. I do. I love you both." "No." The word came out harder than I meant. "You don't get to say that. You don't get to love us both. You made a choice. Every day for 8 months, you chose him." Jake finally looked at me. His eyes were red, whether from guilt or just getting caught, I couldn't tell. "We tried to stop. We tried so many times." "You tried to stop," I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You tried to stop in my bed? How noble. How many times did you try? Once? Twice? Or did you try right up until I walked in here tonight?" "We were going to tell you," Sarah said. "After the holidays. We were going to sit you down and explain everything." "Explain what? That my cousin better in bed than me? That my fiancé prefers someone who's around? That my entire life has been a joke for the better part of a year?" The questions hung in the air like smoke. No one had answers because there weren't any good ones. No explanation would make it these better, no justification that would give me back my trust, my relationship, my family. "Where do we go from here?" Jake asked. "We?" I stared at him. "There is no we. There will never be a we again. You're dead to me. Both of you." "Mark, please," Sarah reached for me. "Can't we talk about this? Can't we try to work through this? I stepped back like she was. Maybe she was. Work through this? Sarah, you've been living a double life for 8 months. You've been planning a wedding while my cousin. You've been saying you love me while telling him you love him more. What exactly is there to work through? I made a mistake. A mistake is forgetting to pay a bill or burning dinner. This is betrayal. This is 8 months of calculated deception. This is choosing him over me every single day and then lying to my face about it. I went to our bedroom, started throwing Jake's clothes into a garbage bag. His toothbrush was next to mine in the bathroom. His deodorant was in our medicine cabinet. He'd been living here while I paid the rent. Get out, I said, throwing the bag at his feet. Both of you. I want you gone in an hour. Where am I supposed to go? Sarah asked. I don't care. Go to Jake's. Go to your sister's. Go too. Just get out of my apartment. It's my apartment too, she said quietly. No. It's not. Check the lease. My name, my credit, my deposit. You've been living in my space, sleeping in my bed, cooking in my kitchen while you betrayed me. But it was never yours. I called my brother while they were packing. It's done, I told Mike. It's over. How are you holding up? I watched Sarah fold the dress she'd worn to our engagement party, the one I told her made her look like a princess. Jake was in the bathroom, probably collecting the rest of his toiletries from our medicine cabinet. I don't know. I feel like someone reached into my chest and ripped my heart out. But also like someone lifted a weight off my shoulders. Does that make sense? Yeah. It makes sense. They left together. Of course, they did. Sarah hugged me at the door, whispered I'm sorry one more time. I stood there like a statue. Jake didn't say anything, just picked up his bags and followed her out. I watched from the window as they loaded her car. Jake put his arm around her shoulders as they stood on the sidewalk, probably figuring out whose place to go to. She leaned into him, let him comfort her. Like I was the one who had her. That was 3 months ago. The divorce was easy since we weren't married yet. The shared apartment was harder. I broke the lease, took the credit hit, and moved across town. Too many memories in that place. Too many ghosts. I told our families everything. Showed them the photos, the texts, the evidence I'd gathered. My parents were devastated. Jake's mother cried on the phone with my mother for 2 hours. Sarah's parents called to apologize, said they'd had no idea, that they'd raised her better than this. But the damage was done. Not just to me, but to everyone. Family dinners became minefields. Holidays got divided up like we were children of divorce. My cousin's betrayal didn't just destroy my relationship, it fractured my entire extended family. Jake and Sarah are still together. I heard they moved to Portland, started fresh, where no one knows their story. Part of me wonders if they feel guilty, if they think about what they destroyed. But mostly I try not to think about them at all. I haven't dated anyone since. Haven't even wanted to. How do you trust someone new when the last person you trusted was planning your wedding while cheating with your cousin? How do you believe I love you when the last woman who said it was texting the same words to someone else? My job doesn't require travel anymore. I took a demotion to stay local, figured there was no point in having a career if I had no life to balance it with. But there's still no life. Just work, sleep, and the occasional drink with Mike when he's in town. I see couples everywhere now. In coffee shops, walking down the street, and at the grocery store. Young couples holding hands and making plans, older couples who've survived decades together. I wonder about them all. I wonder how many secrets they're keeping, how many lies they're building their love on. People say I'll heal. That I'll learn to trust again, find someone better, and build something real. Maybe they're right. But right now, 3 months later, the idea of letting someone that close feels impossible. The idea of believing someone when they say they love me feels like the setup to a joke I've already heard. I lost more than a fiancé and a cousin. I lost my faith in love, in family, in the basic human decency that keeps us from destroying the people who trust us most. I lost the ability to take relationships at face value, to believe that when someone says they're loyal, they mean it. Sometimes I wonder if I'll ever be able to love someone without constantly looking for signs of betrayal. If I'll ever be able to travel for work without wondering what's happening at home. If I'll ever be able to introduce someone I care about to my family without worrying about who might steal them away. The answer, right now, is no. Maybe someday that will change. Maybe I'll heal enough to risk my heart again. But right now, I'm learning to live with the echo of their betrayal, the knowledge that the people you trust most are the ones who can hurt you the worst. If you're reading this and you're thinking about cheating, about betraying someone who loves you, let me save you some time, it's not worth it. Whatever you think you're gaining, whatever passion or excitement or new love you're chasing, it comes at a cost that's too high to pay. You don't just lose your relationship. You lose your integrity, your family, and your ability to look at yourself in the mirror without flinching. And if you're thinking about betraying someone with their best friend, their family member, someone they trust completely, know that you're not just ending a relationship. You're destroying their ability to trust anyone ever again, and some wounds never fully heal. I trusted my cousin with everything, and he stole the only thing that mattered.